episode of Harmonious World. I'm delighted this time to be joined by pianist Riopy, whose latest album, Bliss, is actually being released as a series of singles. And they're all inspired by his desire to pay tribute to the anonymous but true heroes of normal life. He creates incredibly cinematic music, and this album is a collection of beautiful piano recordings. And you will have heard Riopy's music. He's used often in adverts and films. There's a fantastic advert for the Peugeot 508, which you really should try and listen to, because it's a beautiful piece of music, but it's a great video as well. So I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Riopy. Well, welcome to Harmonious World. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Shall we start by talking about Bliss, the album, and how you came to compose these beautiful pieces of piano music?
Oh, thank you. I mean, Bliss, as you know, the title says, right? It's, you know, for me, it's kind of this state of being, right? And that's what I wanted to kind of spread and share, you know, because that's really the state of being that I think, you know, we should all be in. And I was using, obviously, you know, the piano as a medium, as I always do. So I wanted to do things differently for this album. So I went into south of France, and I went to an old friend's house, and basically I set up the whole, you know, kind of a living room with a big Fazioli piano and an upright in the corner, and my friend's piano, which is an old, you know, French piano that his mother had for a wedding day like 70 years ago.
Wow. And did you, are these, I forgive me, I don't know how much of it is composed and how much of it is improvised.
I would say that on this album it was as much as composed as improvised, or even perhaps even more improvised, because to be very honest, I didn't want to do the album first. I was in a state where I was like, okay, because I was, you know, with all this pandemic and stuff, I was spending a lot of time, you know, really in a meditative state, right? It was kind of it was very, very needed for me. And then I wanted to make my album, but later I was like, no, that's fine. And then I felt, you know, sometimes just follow your intuition. I felt, okay, no, this is the time I have to do it. So I kind of used the whole process. I fasted actually for 48 hours, you know, before going into recording the album. Yeah, because fasting actually, for me at least, you know, it's just my experience. It really changes, you know, my kind of state of consciousness in a funny way. So, and I found myself more fluid, you know, more flowing. It was it was a great way to do it. So I just, you know, nature, proper nature, like outside of everything, outside of noise, and just put myself in the zone, right?
Right. Wow. And that comes across, because the tracks are
thank
all,
you.
yeah, no, there's something very heartfelt.
Thank you. Thank you for feeling it. Yes, it's yeah, it's very emotional, right? It's a very emotional album, and some of the pieces on the album, like my prelude, for example, it's funny because my prelude, I call it my prelude. You see, it's already kind of like my precious. But it was a kind of a little gem for me. It was a secret track that I never wanted to give. I composed it a bit more than 10 years ago. I composed it in 2009 in a small flat in London on Edgware Road, actually.
All right.
And yeah, a long time ago. And I didn't want to share it. It was not ready. You know, I don't know why. You know, because for me, music has a kind of, it's a DNA basically. It's you know, each track, each you know, it's kind of a piece of me, and at the same time it's not even a piece of me because it doesn't belong to me. It's a very funny relationship I have, you know, with music.
Yeah,
You see what
I know exactly
mean?
what you mean. Yeah, it's almost like you birth it, you produce this thing, and it's your child that you send out into the world.
Yeah, it's a very, very weird. It's funny because it's almost like, you know, I'm going to say something very controversial, but it's almost like health, shouldn't be monetized. For me, music shouldn't be, you know what I mean? Because there is a kind of relationship where music for the sake of music, and that's why I always chose, like mainly, of course, the piano, right? I'm a musician, I can do many things, but for me, the piano was really always been the core of my feelings and emotions and also the salvation, to be honest with you. So that's why I kind of transcend, you see what I mean? All these emotions and everything.
Yeah. What I found interesting talking to people, I've been interviewing musicians through the pandemic. I started in May 2020, so a couple of months into the pandemic. And when we started, a lot of the musicians were feeling a little bit lost, feeling a little bit like the rug had been pulled out from under their feet, and they were no longer able to perform. They were no longer able to travel. And they were having to go within themselves. And what's happened now increasingly, and I think it started probably even just a couple of months after that, more and more people have realized how creative they can be, never knowing really what the world was going to look like after the pandemic. We're still not after the pandemic. What is the world going to look like for musicians and for performances, and it's almost like creating for the sake of creating rather than to satisfy a recording deal or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've always been like this, and if you ask my label, I'm probably a bit of a pain in the ass because I don't really abide by any rules. And but that's the same way but I taught myself, to play the piano the same way, right? I always wanted to find by myself, the truth, right? And the truth in music, because for me there is a truth. It's like there is a truth, right? And you can feel or not, and then it's kind of it's a lot of frequencies. It's being on a wavelength as well, right? It's like for me, looking at a TV channel, right? Although I don't watch much TV, but like you put BBC One or BBC Two, you kind of tune yourself in a different zone, right? But it's so true what you're saying. The situation has been very difficult for a lot of people, and honestly, we need to create is definitely, I think, the way to go, because when you create, you are in a safe place, right? And that's what I've been doing all the time. Creating feels good because I'm a big advocate of mental health, and I think we don't see the numbers, of people having big problems, and mental health should definitely be looked at, the proper way, not as a kind of a trend thing. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because it's a huge issue, and I think, when you're stuck like this, like millions of people, around, billions of people probably around the world, it's extremely difficult, and music can play an amazing part in it, but not just music, right? Playing soccer, or I don't know, like running, and right?
Yeah, definitely. Talk to me about how you are releasing this, because you're releasing singles once a month, is that right?
No. Yes, both. No, we did release, singles, because it was through the pandemic. So it was, the right thing to do, to get, a single every month. And we released the whole album in July. With the,
right.
Yeah. So the whole album was released in July, and so far very happy, because it's been spread, among we had a lot of positive feedback from people all around the world, and you see, this is what touches me the most, is receiving emails from fans saying that they touch their soul, right? First, because I'm very happy to hear we have a soul still. That's really good to know. and to see that it affects people, and it's one of the main reasons, again, why I did it, right? It's because I think if we can do something good, and I hope I do it, with music, then we should all do it.
Yeah, very good. There is something cinematic about your music, and I've seen the video for B, which was filmed on Reunion Island. By the way, is your foot all right now?
Is what? Sorry?
Your foot all right now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was. You see, yeah, it's it's better now, but it's been. I mean, I almost died, on the Reunion Island. It was so intense. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but it was really, I was walking like hours and hours and just doing crazy things, right? I mean, the director. It's a funny story actually, because I met him just randomly at because when I see a piano, I love to play, right? So a friend of
Right.
mine took me she wanted to have a drink, and she was working in a hotel. So we went to this hotel in Paris, and there was the piano, and she was like, "Oh, can you play?" I was like, "Okay, sure, of course," because I love playing. I was like, it's not very hard to get me play, But anyway, so I go in the piano and I play. What did I play? I play Drive. And my song Drive is very uplifting, and it's very, it really is a drive, the drive that we need.
Yeah.
And I finished the track, and then I just go with her, and then you've got this guy coming with his wife. "Oh my God, that was amazing! What was that?" I was like, "Oh, I mean, that's my music." And then she looked at me. She was like, "Yeah, you're Riopy." I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh, we're big fans of your music. I knew it was you." Blah blah blah. And he gave me his card, right? And in the meantime, I was already working on, because he was a director, and he gave me his card. And in the meantime, we were already shooting La Vernatelle, right? For my first single. And then I wanted to kind of change direction, but I didn't know and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, this guy." I was like, "Oh." And then, intuition. An afternoon, it was actually, it was exactly the same time last year, right? I called him out of the blue, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're calling me?" I was like, "Yeah, my God, it's like, I loved your vibe." And we started talking, and he had ideas, and then he was like, and I wanted something very cinematic, of course, to go with the music, but I didn't want to get I wanted to get, this, our planet, right? The nature, love, family, like all these emotions that make us, what we are, right? And and I was ecstatic, because he really got it. He really, he really feels the music, so he could convey as well into, into a film. So I was very happy about that.
Yeah, there's some beautiful moments in it. The bit I really liked was when you were in that cave, and it was so black on the floor and above you. It was just amazing.
It's I recommend it to everyone. I shouldn't say that now, because no one can go anywhere, but it's a Reunion Island. It's spectacular. It's really, really spectacular. And we got lucky because we went just before the lockdown everywhere as well, right?
Right.
So
Well,
right now,
yeah.
so it was a bit, but it was an amazing experience. And that kind of lava, right? Because it's volcano lava. It is insane. I mean, what nature does is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And it was just seeing you sitting there with this black all around you, and it was just literally awe-inspiring, because as you say, that's what nature does, that sort of thing. Just incredible.
We cannot beat nature.
No, we try all the time, but we can't.
Oh, for sure, we try very hard, but it's not working,
Absolutely. She comes up every time and goes, no, you try this. Oh, brilliant. And I saw the advert for the Peugeot 508. When was that done?
It's funny because and I mean, I take full responsibility, because it's not really what I do, but when they ask me to star in this advert and to compose the music on a kind of like proper road scale track, I mean, that was just amazing, because we really, it's funny, we use the BPM, right, of the track, so you've got the BP. Yes, as simple as that.
Oh, is that what it is? Because it's really clever. I'm going to encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast to look at the video, because it's fascinating. Oh, and that's how you did it. Okay.
Yeah, we use the BPM, which is the same, because it's all it's all numbers, right? So and we went, and it was I think at I can't remember, but the border of Croatia and a weird name, country's name. I mean, no offense at all, but I can't remember the name. But it was really interesting because it was at the border, right? And we were not even allowed to leave the main road because we could just blow up because they're like thousands, like I think it's 400,000-500,000 like mines, right? You said that, like
okay,
yeah, still there. So they said, do not move, don't go. Like I was like, oh my god, like if we cannot even go on uncharted, territories, that's not nice.
Gosh,
yeah,
wow.
that was really weird. But the actual shoot was amazing. It was an amazing experience to really get like this the score on the road.
And there's something about when you can confound people in that you have a physical representation of something in a different sphere. So you take music and you put it on the road. In that case, it's a visual representation of the music on the road, which is, it blows your mind.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why I did it. I thought it was really cool and very interesting, to do something different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it's not simply you having your music used for an advert. That's it, and your name comes up right at the beginning of the advert. It's very clearly you. So I thought that was really interesting. I love it when there's something about big corporations actually paying for great music, which I like.
Thank you, because that's what I liked as well. I was like, oh my god, they want, like, that's really cool, because most of the time it's I think I mean, it's that's I think a proper debate in itself, because I really believe that music has a huge impact on the brain, and I see it with my babies. I've got 2 babies, and it's absolutely insane what music does. It really expands, right, the mind, right? So if you and even for adults, right? I mean, we know it. I mean, music can be used for torture in Guantanamo Bay, right? I think. One of the Britney Spears tracks, was used there. That was on The Guardian, right? So even on the mainstream newspaper.
That's right. It was,
You were out there, so as well. I mean, isn't it amazing? And I mean, I can feel that as well. But it's not really talked about enough, because music, you need to be very. I think we need to be as mindful, to eat music the same way, we hear food, right?
No, absolutely. And that's the difference, isn't it? And you need to experience music. And one of the issues, of course, we've got in education at the moment is the desire to get rid of music lessons in schools, which seems crazy.
It's really, really, really crazy. And I mean, I have no words, because I do not understand it. I mean, some stuff. I mean, I do not understand politics as well at all. But I mean, I'm very, very, very interested in children's education and how to grow up. And yes, same for me. I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, it's fundamental. It's fundamental.
And I know that you're very interested in mental health and meditation and things, and that's the same, isn't it? That those are the things that we should be investing in, not sort of somehow put to one side.
Absolutely. I mean, it's 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 really refreshing, to talk about that, because I mean, it's like meditation. I mean, I'm really trying to desacralize meditation. I know I'm not hugely vocal on social and stuff, but because it's not really me. And sometimes it's funny when you see very loud people, not talking, about the real issues, but it's not. It's kind of, I think people who want to grow up, and be better and be happy and be in a good place, that they will look for the information. And that's, I think, how the world right now is kind of preparing itself to, because it's for me, meditation. I meditate, twice a day, and meditation, again, it's not, it's not boring. It's not a dogma. I am against any dogma. I'm not religious, and I don't, have anything against religion, but I'm not pushing any religion. Meditation can just help you get a super mind, right? I mean, absolutely a super mind. And even that, sometimes when I talk about meditation, with some people, it's as it is kind of a new field for most people. You hear, kind of a lot of stuff that I'm just like, wow, you see what I mean? Because meditating basically means kind of quieting the brain, the mind, but playing the piano is a meditation in itself already, right? I mean, listening to music mindfully is also a kind of meditation, right? You've got lots of ways to help your mind heal and feel good. And I see it like a computer, right? If you use it too much and and you've got too much noise on it, and then it gets really hot and then it crashes.
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things that I found interesting during the lockdown was the number of people who felt the need to go out and go for big walks, go out into the countryside and get into nature, and that in itself is, for many people, is a starting point of meditation, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's amazing because, I mean, if you go on the NASA website, they actually talk about the Schumann resonance, right? Which is the electromagnetic resonance of the planet, right? And I think one of the fundamentals, I think it's 7.83 hertz, right? So the Earth is basically electric, right? Electromagnetic, which is fascinating. But our body and our mind as well, right? And you had this neuroscientist, Michael Persinger, who died a few years ago. So it was amazing. He did a talk on YouTube called No More Secrets, and I would highly recommend anyone to watch it, because it talks about how the brain, can access, a lot of things, and how connected we are, with basically, the biology, as simple as that, right? I mean, a lot of people, like you probably heard about Bruce Lipton or Joe Dispenza, and they're biologists, and Bruce Lipton is, and it's amazing, right? What you can do, that's why nature, when we go into nature, some people cannot, because sometimes it almost scares you, because it's a different frequency, right? It's a different feeling, it's a different, but all of this is not even, you don't have to be spiritual at all, right? I mean, for me, I came from a science point of view. I mean, two views, actually. The music, because I'm like, where does my music come from, right? I was very fascinated by that. And also because, at some point in my life, I was absolutely sick. I've been depressed my whole life. And I realized playing music made me happy, of course, but I couldn't play music 24 hours, right? And when I was not playing music, I was really depressed. And the day I started making a living, 10 years ago, I was making a living. I had a nice flat. I had my girlfriend, and I was still not happy. And I was like, wow, I thought by doing this, I will get this. And I didn't. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And we all are this. We're all looking for something. Okay, if I buy, a car, I will be happy. If I buy a house, I will be happy. And actually, it really doesn't work.
So, no, absolutely not. No. Fantastic.
So it's fascinating.
Yeah. Definitely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed our conversation. It's been brilliant.
Same, thank you. And I really like your voice, and I miss the British accent. Beautiful accent.
Thank you. We try.
No, yours is really, it's very melodic. It's beautiful. Like it a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
And you too. Bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Riopy. He's a fascinating man. At the start of this podcast, you will have heard B. And what we're listening to now is Sense of Hope, which I love the piece of music anyway, but it feels like we all need a bit of hope, don't we, right now? Thank you for listening to Harmonious World. Please do share it with your friends and family. You can rate and review, that would be really nice. And I look forward to speaking to you again in the future. I've got some great interviews lined up. I know I always say that, but I really have. I'm so fortunate to speak to these great people. Thank you for joining me once more, and I hope you have a great week. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.